This is Free Speech Radio, and John, you're on TalkSport. Thanks very much for calling.
Hi. George, what a litany of anti-Israel propaganda. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd be grabbing my suicide belt and Kalashnikov and going off to Israel myself to kill a few Israeli civilians.
That's well witted, John. Now go on with your point.
Well, I mean, I don't know where to start. There's so much there. I mean, you said that Israel is illegally occupying Arab land, but I think you know as well as I do that that's not true. That the UN resolutions, the Oslo Accords, and the roadmap all give Israel the right to control the territories until a permanent peace has been found. The problem is that there's no...
I don't know whether to laugh or cry at that falsehood.
Can I just finish what I said?
Yeah.
The problem is that they don't have a partner for peace. The majority of Palestinians have recently voted for an organisation called Hamas, whose constitution is effectively being lifted from the pages of Hitler's Mein Kampf. It calls for the killing of Jews everywhere, and Israel can hardly be expected to sit down to the negotiating table with a country which wants to destroy it. I mean, on the list of nations queuing up to commit national suicide, the Jews come maybe 11th on the list, maybe 7th, or maybe even 4th, but not first, not again, George.
Go ahead,
Can I just correct a few other points that you said? I mean, it's worthwhile. I mean, you talked about the majority of Israelis coming from escaping persecution in Eastern Europe. I mean, that's not actually true. The majority of Israelis are escapees, or the descendants of escapees from persecution in Arab countries.
One of the things that's going to be necessary, John, in this discussion is that you don't misrepresent things that I have said. Those words you've just attributed to me were never spoken by me. I said that the original Zionist leaders were European Jews and atheists.
George, it's a very important point to understand that the majority of Jews, the majority of Israelis, in fact, are themselves escapees or descendants from escapees. They are refugees escaping persecution and massacres in Arab countries.
Which massacres were those, John?
There were massacres the Al Farouk massacre in Baghdad.
Tell me about that.
Where 600 Jews were murdered.
What year was that? What year was that?
Well, that was in the 1940s. But also, I've got relatives.
Tell me when in the 1940s 600 people were massacred in Baghdad.
Sorry, well, you can look it up yourself.
I will look it up. I'll be looking it up while we're going on with this program.
I'm sorry, there were many Jews killed, particularly between 1948 and 1950.
You've said on air that 600 Iraqi Jews were massacred in Baghdad in the 1940s.
That's true.
You've said it. I'm just about to research it now during the rest of the program. Now go on. Go on. You've got your propaganda script there, so read through it seriatim, please.
Can I just finish what I'm saying? Between 1948 and 1952, over 1 million Jews escaped persecution in Arab countries. Where could they go? They had nowhere to go apart from Israel. The majority of them settled in Israel. And they were virtually the only country to take them in. So, I mean, it's important to get your facts straight. Remember also that in...
You're telling me to get my facts straight.
Yeah. So
you're a Zionist propagandist, and you're telling me to get my facts straight. Every single thing you've said so far has been a falsehood. Everything you've said has been false.
It's very easy. Well, it's very easy to say.
Well, I'm going to deal with it as soon as you're finished. If you ever finish, John, I'll answer you. Now go on.
Remember that in 1917 there was only 500,000 people living in Palestine. And during the British Mandate period, the British had a racist policy of allowing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, the British had a racist policy of allowing unlimited Arab immigration into Israel, and hundreds of thousands of people who now claim that they are Palestinians and claim their right to national statehood are themselves the descendants of immigrants into Palestine. Whereas at the same time they forbade Jews from entering Palestine. Have you heard of the White Paper of 1939, which allowed Arabs unlimited access into Israel and forbade Jews from entering the land on the eve of the Holocaust? If the British hadn't done that, millions of Jews would have been saved in the Holocaust. So,
you finished? You finished?
Can I just say one thing, George?
You've said plenty, so keep speaking, because I don't want you to say that I cut you off. John, you keep speaking until you're finished. I'm not interrupting you. You keep speaking until you finish, not least because if I could can this and carry it around with me as an example of the utter, unremitting mendacity of Zionist propagandists, your speech would be the one I'd take with me. So go ahead.
Just because you don't agree with something, you can't just quote...
Everything you've said has been a lie. Every statement that you made is utterly false. So go ahead. Go ahead. Keep speaking.
Well, it's a lie if you only get your information from dodgy websites.
Go ahead.
Internet,
please.
George. I mean,
finish your statement, John.
If I can just...
You've got it written down in front of you, so go back to where you broke off and read it out.
I haven't got anything written down in front of me, I can assure you.
No, I can assure you have. I've been doing this long enough to know when somebody's reading a script. So go ahead.
That's the other thing I wanted to mention is that you said that Israel's right to, or the Jews' right to the land started in the Balfour Declaration. That isn't true. In actual fact, Israel's legal claim to the land was on the basis of the 1922 League of Nations mandate on Palestine, which gave the British the right to control. Which gave the British the mandate on Palestine on the basis that they were creating national homeland for the Jews. And that's the legal basis on which Israel came into being, not the Balfour Declaration.
Okay, you're finished. Are you finished? Are you finished?
Well, I've got other things to say, but...
Well, go on then.
I mean, you mentioned about the Holocaust as if the Arabs come out of the Holocaust with totally clean hands. I mean, it's very important to mention that the leader of the Palestinians in Israel, a man called Haj Amin al-Husseini, sat out the Second World War in Hitler's bunker, and he helped set up 2 divisions of the Islamic SS in Bosnia, which helped kill Christian Serbs and Jews in the former Yugoslavia. So I'm afraid, Arabs don't come out of the Holocaust with totally clean hands, and they can't divorce themselves from responsibility. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that the League of Nations gave Israel a mandate on Palestine. Palestine at the time included what is now known as Jordan. The British then, in breach of the mandate, then gave away 75% of Palestine.
Okay, John, I think we've probably had enough. You are an unremitting falsifier of facts. You're a perverter of history, and you are a liar. And you are an apologist for some of the worst crimes that anyone with a TV screen and with eyes to see have witnessed in the world in the last 5 decades. Everything that you said, every single thing that you said, was completely false. And the duplicity with which you twisted semi-truths, half-truths, was a masterclass in the Israeli propagandist falsifiers. Now, I've got somebody out there checking your claim that 600 people were massacred in Baghdad in the 1940s, and that's the first thing that I'm going to deal with. According to the history, in the coup of 1941, the Rashid Ali coup, there was widespread fighting, and it's alleged that 180 people lost their lives. How many of those were Jews is not clear. You said that 600 Iraqi Jews were massacred, and that was the reason why Iraqi Jews rushed to Israel. That was a false statement. One of many false statements that you were allowed to make on my show this evening. What you didn't mention was that it is now admitted that the Zionists themselves were planting explosive devices in synagogues across the Arab world at exactly that time, with a view to stampeding the Jews of the Arab world out of their own countries and into occupied Palestine. This is not my claim. This is accepted historical fact in the official histories now of the formation and the early years of the Zionist state. You said that there were only 500,000 Palestinians in Palestine in 1917 at the time of the Balfour Declaration. This is a lie. You then made the fantastic claim, which after most of my lifetime involved in this issue, even I had never heard before. You claim that hundreds of thousands, I'm quoting you, hundreds of thousands of Arabs from other places emigrated to Palestine after the Balfour Declaration. This is a fantastic lie, and a necessary one for you, because you have to explain how it is that now 5 million Palestinians live as refugees in the surrounding countries with keys and land titles to the lands that they were driven from in Palestine. And you can't claim that as being an indigenous problem, because according to you there were only 500,000 Palestinians there. What you're really saying, John, in Greater Manchester is this: that the superior race of Europeans, who were the original colonizers of Palestine, every single one of the Zionist leaders who extracted the promise from Balfour were European, atheistic Zionists. Not one of them claimed a biblical title. Not one of them believed in God. What they were doing was exactly what white people who were not Jewish were doing all over the world at that time. They were founding a colonial settlement. The Palestinian people had only one main difficulty, and it wasn't that there were only 500,000 of them. Their main difficulty was that they were Arabs. They were people from a supposedly inferior civilization. And in Mr. Churchill's infamous words, when told that Zionism could not be allowed to colonize Palestine because the Palestinians were already living there, he said, "I don't accept that the dog has the right to the manger, however long it has lain there." That was the mentality behind the Zionist occupation of Palestine. That the people living there were dogs, were subhumans, just like the Africans could be colonized because they were subhumans, just like the Asians could be colonized by white European Christians in the empire days because they were less than us. The truth is, the Palestinians were to be occupied because they had a piece of land coveted by others and that they were less than us.